The Beatles are regarded as great innovators, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think most people would agree with that.
But on the other hand, John Lennon, who is considered one of the great rock and roll innovators, said that all music is just a rehash.
Just a repackaging of what came before.
Exactly.
Yeah, he really had this anti-intellectual theory about the originality of music, didn't he?
He absolutely did. And it feels like such a paradox. How can the band credited with, changing the face of popular music believe that nothing is ever truly new?
Right.
So today, we're really going to explore Lennon's core philosophy of creation, this idea that innovation is, well, an illusion.
And that honesty is the real key.
We want to understand what he actually meant by rehash, and maybe more importantly, why he saw it as a good thing, not a cynical or lazy thing.
It wasn't cynical at all. For Lennon, it was a profoundly pragmatic view. It cut through all the pretension that was starting to build up around rock music.
Okay, so let's start right there with his core thesis. In that conversation from September 1980, he just lays it out. All music is rehash. There are only a few notes, just variations on a theme.
And that's not just a clever quote. He really means it. It's a declaration of musical reality.
So he wasn't trying to be an inventor.
No, not at all. He was saying that music isn't some high art pursuit of pure novelty. It's about loving the sounds that came before you and being honest that you're just using the same 12 notes everyone else has.
And that honesty, that acknowledgement,
Yeah.
seems to be everything for him. He didn't see the Beatles as creating in a vacuum.
No, he saw himself as like an enthusiastic participant in this huge ongoing cultural conversation, and he was really careful about tracing that lineage.
Especially back to the Black American musicians.
Oh, absolutely. The ones who created the sounds he spent his entire life trying to recreate, he never shied away from that.
Which is such a vital point for anyone listening who creates anything. If you accept Lennon's view, you have to think about how creativity actually works when the building blocks are finite.
Right. If you only have 12 notes, what does it even mean to be innovative?
Well, let's start with the simple math, because it surprisingly supports Lennon's whole point.
It really does. I mean, we operate almost entirely within those 12 distinct notes of the Western chromatic scale. That's the palette.
And it goes deeper, right? It's not just the notes, it's how our brains process them.
Exactly. There are mathematical and biological constraints. Our brains are literally wired to find certain intervals and chord progressions pleasing. It's about the relationship between frequencies.
So the pool of truly original sonic combinations is actually pretty small.
It's staggeringly small, which is why, if you look at the structure of almost any popular song, you see the same patterns again and again.
So new songs aren't created from nothing.
Never. They're really just efficient blends or remixes and transformations of structures that are already in our cultural DNA.
The genius isn't in inventing a new element.
No, it's in the novel combination of elements that already feel deeply familiar to us.
It sounds a lot like that copy, transform, combine model of creativity.
That's a perfect way to put it. You copy the 3 chords of the blues, you transform them with a driving rock rhythm and volume, and you combine them with your own lyrics.
And that's rock and roll.
That is rock and roll. And you see it everywhere in music history. I mean, rock is built spiritually and structurally on blues progressions.
And then you get something like hip-hop, which makes that borrowing explicit. Sampling is central to the art form.
Exactly. It formalizes the rehash. Or think about a band like Led Zeppelin, seen as these huge innovators.
Yeah, revolutionary.
But so many of their biggest tracks were built around ancient blues progressions. They just injected a whole new level of energy and contemporary swagger.
So the lineage isn't plagiarism.
No, it's fundamental. It's part of the conversation.
And that brings us right back to the very early Beatles playing in Hamburg. Lennon was so transparent about this. He said their initial focus was imitation, not innovation.
And he never apologized for it. Why would he?
Because for him, it was the highest form of tribute, right? If a sound changes your world, your first impulse is to try and make that sound yourself.
Of course. And the early set list was just a who's who of Black American R&B and rock and roll.
I mean, you look at the list, money, that's what I want.
Twist and shout.
You really got a hold on me.
Please, Mr. Postman? These were revolutionary recordings by Black artists, and the Beatles were these 4 kids from Liverpool just trying to bottle that lightning.
And Lennon had that perfect quote to explain their intent. He said, "The one thing we always did was to make it known that these were Black originals. We loved the music and wanted to spread it. It wasn't a ripoff. It was a love-in."
That phrase, a lovin', just captures his entire philosophy. It's beautiful. They weren't chasing novelty.
They're chasing a feeling.
Yes, fidelity to the feeling they got from Chuck Berry or Little Richard. And if that meant using the same 3 chords, the same rhythm, that was the goal. It was passion over theory.
Which, this commitment to raw energy and simplicity really defined his songwriting for his whole career.
It did. He always championed simplicity. Rock and roll is fundamentally built on these very familiar, very limited structures.
Like the pentatonic scale.
Exactly, that 5-note scale.
Yeah.
It's the basis for countless classic rock riffs and blues solos because it works. It sounds good to the human ear. It's immediate.
But this is where it gets really interesting, because that love of simplicity actually became a point of conflict within the band.
It did, especially after the big psychedelic period.
After Sgt. Pepper's and Magical Mystery Tour.
Right. Lennon started to become really critical of that complex, ornate production style. He started to pull back.
He called it pretentious.
He did. He wanted to strip away the orchestration, the tape loops, all the studio tricks.
But how can Sgt. Pepper's, which is seen as this pinnacle of innovation, be pretentious?
Well, for him, it wasn't about the quality of the music itself. He wasn't saying the songs were bad.
Oh,
it was
God.
the implication. He felt that the album suggested that rock and roll needed to be, dressed up with orchestras and literary allusions to be seen as legitimate art.
And for him, that was a betrayal of its truth.
A total betrayal of its raw power. He was still chasing that teenage excitement. He said in 1968, and get this, that he was still trying to reproduce some other guy, or Bebopalula.
Wow. One of the biggest rock stars in the world, saying his goal is to copy the feeling of old records.
It's incredible, and it ties directly into their whole practical approach. I mean, the Beatles famously did not read or write sheet music.
Which just reinforces that anti-intellectual stance. They didn't engage with music theory.
They engaged with the sound, intuitively. And because they weren't theoretical, they relied on inherited tools that they knew worked.
You see this in their use of those really familiar chord progressions.
Oh, yeah, like the classic IV, C.
That's the one behind what Let It Be.
Let It Be, Journey's Don't Stop Believin', hundreds of massive hits. It works because it's a perfect little emotional story. It starts at home, builds tension, adds a touch of sadness, and then resolves.
It's a guaranteed emotional winner.
It is. And their whole songwriting process was built on that kind of pragmatism. They had the catchiness test.
Right. If they wrote something and couldn't remember it the next day,
They'd just drop it. It meant it was too complicated, not immediate enough. The connection to the listener was everything.
and you see that in the lyrics too. Lennon valued directness over clever wordplay.
Absolutely. His best lyrics feel conversational, like he's telling you an urgent truth right to you.
He's using the same words everyone else uses, but with this incredible conviction.
And that conviction is what makes the familiar feel profound again. Look at All You Need Is Love.
Okay.
The statement itself is not new. It's an ancient sentiment. It's almost a cliche.
But they delivered it with such simple, urgent conviction that the cliche felt revolutionary. They took the same notes, the same common idea, and made it feel essential.
So if you put it all together, Lennon's whole philosophy, it completely reframes how we should look at the Beatles' success.
Their genius wasn't in inventing new notes or chords.
No, it was in using those shared familiar tools. The same 12 notes, the same 3-chord structure, the guitar, the bass guitar, the drums, but with an unparalleled energy and honesty.
They made old sounds feel completely urgent and new for a whole generation.
That's it. They didn't succeed by being totally original. They succeeded by embracing the limits and executing familiar ideas with such skill that the result felt transformative.
So if we take Lennon seriously, it really challenges this whole idea of originality being the most important thing in art.
It absolutely should. I mean, if all music is derivative, then the question isn't, did you invent it? It's, what did you do with it?
Right.
We should be judging artists on the feeling, the conviction they bring to the shared vocabulary. The biggest innovations are often just subtle shifts in perspective, not huge sonic revolutions.
And for you, the listener, there's this really democratic implication here.
There is.
If music is just using the same building blocks that have always existed, then creativity is accessible to everyone. You don't need to go to a conservatory.
You just need to love the sound, chase it, and add your own emotional truth to that inherited language.
And that, according to John Lennon, is the entire point of rock and roll.
It's the ultimate permission slip to just get in there and participate.
Well, thanks for joining us today. Whenever you feel like knowing more about the Beatles, visit us at BeatlesRewind.com. Every day, we do something new there. Song reviews, album reviews, movie reviews, book reviews, documentaries, trivia, all things Beatles. Every day, 8 days a week. You can find us on the website, BeatlesRewind.com. You can subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Amazon Podcasts, practically anywhere on the inner tubes. The Beatles, all day, every day. Cass, we'll do it again tomorrow.
Absolutely, I'll be here.
Until next time, when you listen.
Your mind conducts its own symphony.